I think we do so many great things here well, and I think the most important part for me is just coming in, keeping the pace high, using my speed and ability to better get in the paint and get those guys easy shots. I think where I can help out a lot, and everything else, man, I'll fit right in and continue doing what they have going on right now, and everything else will play out itself.
We all knew how bad the Lakers trade for Russell Westbrook was before he even played one game with them. But I believe his departure in February further solidified how unnecessary of a move it really was. I said in multiple videos last year about the Lakers, you can't blame Russ specifically because he didn't trade for himself. The Lakers made that impulsive move, and it exposed all of Russ's deficiencies. It made the team collectively look bad because they lost all their depth for a terrible fit, and it stopped all the positive momentum they built as a team, hence all the success they had prior to that unnecessary trade. But I want to talk about Russ now with the Clippers because it's literally been the polar opposite. You have to give Russ credit because he's been really good for the Clippers, especially as of late, mainly because they have him in a completely different way than the Lakers did. Russ didn't suck up all of their cap. In fact, he's not even making $1 million with them. They have multiple shooters to complement his drive and kick style, and they're not so dependent on Russ's productivity because they're one of the deepest teams in the NBA, unlike the Lakers. With the Clippers this season, in a pretty significant sample size, look at his first 21 games there and look at them last year with the Lakers. With the Lakers, he led the team in total minutes because their two best players were brittle. He averaged the second most minutes a night, he played the most games, and he had the second highest usage rate. Again, with them already destroying their depth for Russ, they relied heavily on his services with already a bad fit, and it was a disaster. With the Clippers, he's 5th in usage rate. They don't really need him to play as many minutes, and they use him effectively in spurts, especially when they were whole. But even with that being the case, I don't want to poo-poo what Russ has been doing because he's actually been best for him when needed most after Paul George got hurt. Since PG went down, they've asked more from Russ, and he simply produced. They have one of the best records in the league since Paul's injury, in which they've needed all of those wins, maybe except that last one, I ain't gonna lie. When Paul George went down, literally 2 games separated the Clippers at that time as the 5th seed from the 10th seed, so they really couldn't lose any games. And if you want to know how important Russ has really been for the Clippers, just listen to all of these facts. Before Russ joined the team, they were one of the slowest teams in the league. Since PG's injury, they play at a top 10 pace. Also, they have the 3rd best offense in this span, the best true shooting percentage, the best field goal percentage, the best 3-point percentage, with 7 players shooting 40% from deep. And guess what? Including Russ. This season, their top net rating lineups both include Russ, so he's quite literally been a net positive for that team. Even sharing the ball, before they got Russ, they were top 25 in team assists. Since Paul George's injury, they've been top 7. It's always a major adjustment period for teams when adding Russ, but after those early hurdles, they benefited tremendously from adding him, and I gotta give him his credit. But also the Lakers. They've benefited just as much, if not more, from losing him and adding way better fits. The trades, we know by now, they've been phenomenal. D'Lo, he's been extremely efficient for him, and he's been a really good shot creator for his teammates. Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis, they're both top 5 in individual defensive rating since the trade. The Lakers have the best defensive rating in the conference since the trade. And with the spacing they added, they've risen significantly as a shooting team. So the trades, they've been incredible. But to me, most importantly, with Russell Westbrook gone and LeBron's injuries and even D'Lo being in and out, they got to see the true full potential of Austin Reeves. Since March 1st, where LeBron got injured in this span, D'Lo has been in and out and the opportunities opened up for Austin. Look at what he's been doing in this span. In fact, since March 1st, a 20-game sample size for him, by the way, look who's been the most efficient scorer with his point per game averages or more in this span. That's actually insane. At the time of the trade deadline, the Lakers, they were the 13th seed, 5 games below 500 and on pace to win 37 games. Since the trade deadline, they have the best record in the conference, the best defense in the conference, they made the highest play-in seeding, and Rob, he gave LeBron a chance at his 5th championship. He gave him a chance. The Atlanta Hawks, may really be the most mid-average team in NBA history, like dead ass. The trade for DeJounte Murray looks bad only because you gave up 3 picks and a swap for him, and the team didn't get better at all, and your best player regressed. I'll compare this trade to the Cleveland Donovan Mitchell trade, only because it feels the exact same in theory. You paired your point guard with another ball handler in the backcourt in hopes that he will better the offense collectively, but most importantly, create better looks and efficiencies for your point guard. Look at Cleveland and Darius Garland, and look at Atlanta and Trae Young. Even with the presence of Murray, Trae really hasn't developed into that off-ball player that people thought he possibly could. And he went from having career highs in efficiencies last year to having his worst since his rookie season this year. And when I say this team is mid, I mean they're mid in every single way you possibly can be mid. 500 total record, 500 versus the East, 500 versus the West, mid in point differential, mid in rebound differential, blocks, steals. Like, they don't do anything above average besides score, but they're so bad defensively that it actually offsets. They score some of the most points per game, 118 points a night, but they also give up some of the most points per game, 118 points per game. And also, with how improved the East has become, especially at the top, the Murray trade looks bad because it didn't make them any better, and financially, it's a disaster. Think about it like this. After this season, you still have 4 more years of Trae Young on that massive deal. 3 more years of Josh Collins on what looks to be an overpaid contract, 2 more years of Clint Capella, and 4 more years of DeAndre Hunter on that sizable deal. And you still have to pay DeJounte Murray after next year. That's a mess. Eventually, I think they're going to have to decide between Trae and DeJounte Murray. I don't think they can keep them both. The New York Knicks, they were kind of laughed at this offseason, specifically for missing out on Donovan Mitchell, who wanted to be a Knick. But alongside the Cavs, to me, they won the offseason. For New York this season, Jalen Brunson has had a 10-game impact on their record. Julius Randle's contract went from looking bad last year to most definitely justifiable now with Jalen Brunson. And most importantly, they elevated all the way up to 3rd offensively, 18 spots up from last year. That's actually insane. Jalen Brunson has the 4th most clutch points this season, above D. Mitch. And he may be on the most team-friendly contract, maybe in the sport. This year, Jalen Brunson is in the 50s in annual salaries. Next year, he'll be 49th. For a team that already has some pretty bad deals, if you ask me, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, I'm just not a big fan of. They needed a team-friendly deal like Brunson, and he's already outplaying the contract he's on. I guess we'll really see who won the offseason in the first round, but Jalen Brunson was a bigger pickup than anybody thought he'd be, especially the Mavericks. And lastly, the KD Suns trade, it was a win-win. I told y'all, and some people disagreed in the comments, and that's cool. I didn't think Brooklyn got fleeced because they got back valuable pieces and assets given that terrible situation they were in. For KD, a mega superstar averaging 29 points a night, and he's injury prone. Brooklyn got back the exact opposite of KD injury-wise. He's younger, he's one of the best two-way players in the league, and he's probably taken the biggest leap offensively this season. Bro, I love Kevin Durant. Like, if y'all didn't know, he's one of my favorite players in the league. But in his 3.5 years with Brooklyn, do you know the most amount of consecutive games played he's had with Brooklyn? 27 games. Obviously, he was great in those games, like he's KD, but that's how many games he's played straight for Brooklyn, and he's missed 151. And Mikal Bridges, 2 months with the Brooklyn Nets, and I know that last one was cheap because he only played 4 seconds to keep his streak going, but it still technically stands. You know the most consecutive games he's played for the Brooklyn Nets? 27 games, just like Kevin Durant. I know Mikal isn't KD, like literally nobody is. But since being a Net, he's averaged an efficient 27 points a night. The Nets, they were able to hold on to a secure playoff spot post-KD trade. Cam Johnson is averaging his career high in points with the Nets. And kind of like Jalen Brunson, Mikal is on a pretty team-friendly deal given his services on both sides of the court. Okay, by now, Brooklyn, they know they messed up by getting Ben Simmons. Like, he's probably on the worst contract in the sport. But at least with Mikal, you get what Ben was supposed to bring you defensively in a scorer's body. Also, you have 4 of the Suns' picks and a swap, so that helps. Again, given that mess of a situation they stood in 3 months ago, the Nets came out pretty good if you ask me. If you guys like this video. If you made it this far, comment something this season proved to you, something that you learned by just watching this season. These are just my thoughts. Turn on my post notifications, follow my social media sites for all of my live reactions for the playoffs, all that great stuff. Do all that great stuff, guys, and until next time, as always, stay tuned.